Alrighty, hello and welcome back. Still looking handsome today, as you can tell. We're gonna finish up our Twitch TV app. It's pretty simple. Alrighty, it's pretty good. We only have a little bit more to do. So as I get nice and cozy to my laptop here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right back into where we left off. All right, so let's see where we left off. Do screen share and go back into this pen. This is where we are. All right, this is right where we stopped. All I said was we already have our simple Ajax here where we can handle our error and just say the user was not found. This is just going to pop up multiple times for each user. And remember, inside of this function, you can do a lot more with this. All right, you could do a lot more clever things with this. All right, and so you can might even be able to copy and paste something that we're going to do in a minute, which is kind of cool. All righty, so let's look at this again. We have an array, all right, here of just random things. We have a basic get JSON, or the shorthand for the Ajax, which is going to take this and change freeCodeCamp online to an offline based on the status with this if-else. Data.stream is exactly equal to null, and we found that by going into the streams data object we get from that Ajax request, and we found that the .streams null meant they were offline, and then we modify the HTML accordingly. And we're going to do this again pretty much for the other stuff we're going to have to. And then we're inside of a for loop, and we're going to iterate through the entire array. I want to handle an error, so I didn't use the shorthand get JSON because I don't know how to explain that adequately, and it just seemed clunky, where this seemed like it just made a whole lot more sense to me, where we have the get request instead of get JSON. Again, we just break this down, or get JSON. Get JSON. Here is the beginning part of our address, the stream sub I now, because we're accessing that array and we're changing the stream based on the user. And instead of doing the question mark client ID and the key, we just separate that out into a header that says client ID and then the key itself. All right. And key, I'm saying API key, by the way, but they're calling it a client ID. And then upon success, which is very similar to this .done over here, all right, we're going to run a function. And I didn't do anything. All right. However, if there's an error, which means there's no data there, I'm going to just throw an alert. All right. And then we can modify this a little bit later on. All right. So I'm going to try to make this a quicker video. And so just like we use the stream, whether it's on or offline, as a trigger for this, guess what? We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to do the same exact thing. All right. However, we're going to be using the data is going to be slightly different because we're going to make another get JSON, and it's going to look exactly like this, except we're going to change this. Instead of freeCodeCamp, it's going to be this data1, all right, that we're going to be using, or we're going to be using this sort of how we have the stream sub I here. All right, that's really what we're going to be kind of focused in on. All right. So let's do this. This stream sub I we could use again, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use, since we're already using this data.1 here inside of this success, this data.1, if you notice that it has a name, and that name happens to be the same thing as when we go to the stream, which is going to fit in right around here. So I'm just going to be using this data I.name to plug in there. And since I don't want to recreate the wheel, and I'm still going to need this data.stream equal to null, I'm just going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to borrow it. Right? And I don't need this console log for this data right here. This data, I'm not going to call data. I'll just call data 2. Data 2. All right. And what I need is, if else, what else I need is I need to get rid of this freeCodeCamp because I don't want to access the freeCodeCamp stuff every time I go through my array. So I'm going to concatenate this, adding in some pluses, right? And I want to concatenate this with a variable. So again, all I did was instead of having it static, now I'm going to have it change. Now we have this console log for data 1 already set, and I want to add in the name in here. I need to find out where it says like freeCodeCamp or something else like that, right? So where does it say that stuff? So here's a name of a guy here. All right, and we can find that little piece of information a few different ways. We can go to that data I right there, dot name. Look at that, dot name. Yep. So we can access that. All right. So now this function that we're running here is going to be with data 2. I'm going to console log out that data 2 actually in a minute. Show you. So data 1 dot name. And here it's just going to be data, not data 1, data I dot name. And so I'm just concatenating in a variable there. And that is just the name that we get from right here. And it's going to plug that string in, bloop, right there, which is what we need. Once we do that, you get a done function. And then I still could call it data, but I want to just call it data 2 to make sure it's different from the other data that we have here. This here lines up with that. Good. I'm just going to tab this over a little bit, just so things line up and read a little easier here. All right, so inside of here, now I'm going to console.log and see what we're getting. See if we're getting what I expect to get. Data 2. All right. So if I console log data 2, all right, notice we're still accessing the stream. So the first thing we accessed was channels, because if the channel wasn't active, we got an error, right? But once we do that channel, we don't have access to the stream. We really want to see what stream they're using. So now it says streams, just like we use streams up here. That's how come I'm using streams now instead of channels. So I made a API call for channels, and then inside of the success, inside for success for that particular API call, making a new API call that says, hey, take a look at the channel. Let's see what's going on with that channel. All right. And both of these API calls, even though they're nested, are going for the same name or the same user. So inside of this success, before I make the second API call, if I want to access something like the profile image, all right, or the icon, whatever they're calling it, I can access it there. So I have all the access to the information from channels and streams. And the channels is going to allow me to filter out any errors. So whatever I do and using information here, I could also use it before this get JSON if it's only in channels. Otherwise, if it's in streams, it's got to be used inside of after this function with data 2. So I'm going to save, I'm going to clear, and I'm going to run. And we have 1 error, 2 errors, which is good. That's what I want. So 2 of the users are not there. And again, that's not really the fanciest way of handling it. And now you can see what I want. So the 3 things that I'm looking for are user, status, and the game that they're playing. So here's a user here. And how do I access the user? Here's the stream object. So they're streaming. I can say they're online. There's the game. And there's no easy way to access that, that particular user's name. So how am I going to do this? Well, there's actually quite a few different ways. What's kind of cool is inside of this data 2, I'm going to show you one way. I'm going to leave that open. So I can do this just directly inside of data 2. And what I can do is I can just take a look at links.self, and I can count these. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I'm just counting this up. 37. So they're all going to start and have these characters here. All right. I think that's 36 characters. So then this would be the 37th. So I could just grab this piece of data and I could just slice that off. And then I could just grab this thing right here. So you can use a slice method, and I'll show you how to do that because it's kind of cool. That's what I originally did because I just didn't want to deal with having data in two separate places. I didn't want jQuery overwriting data in two separate places. I thought that that would be a little bit confusing for you. So what I originally did, and I'll show you how to do right here, is inside of this data too, all I did was I created a variable, and I called it name. And it's just going to be their username, not their display name, however, which is going to be the issue, which is why I can show you how to put this somewhere else. And all I have to do is display name equals your data2 dot underscore links. And again, this is coming directly out of dot links right here and self. So dot links dot self, right? Dot slice. And again, and we can slice 37 off of that. And yeah. And now, instead of console logging data to, stop, I don't need that. I can console dot log name. Clear, run. 1, 2 users not available. And here's the names of everybody who is available, right? So that's one way to do it. And I can replace that name, all right, in with what in this little if else that I want to do, all right? Again, not the best way to do it. What you can do is do what I'm going to show you down here in this if else, and actually do it up before you make this request right here. So you can move that stuff up into here. And again, it's in the same scope. You're just using data1, and data1, remember, is the channels data, and you can console log out your data1 and find out where that's at and grab that data right there, including the icon or image or any other links or live streams or anything else you want to put in your background that's only in that channel information. It would go right there, okay? But again, I'm going to put all of the data in one spot, in one called just so it's easier to read for you guys to start with, all right? And then you can modify that as needed. So here's the base. So I'm going to take off that console log because that works. Rid of that space because I don't need it. And here we go. So what do I want to do? I don't want to overwrite FCC again. All right, I don't want that to happen. But I do want to overwrite something else. All right, I want to overwrite the user, the status, and the game. All right. So, and I don't really want to overwrite it. I just want to add the information one at a time right underneath in these columns. So I want to find this column, find that column, and systematically append, append, append. Then move to the next one, append, 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 and just populate that list that way. And again, not the best way to do it, but it is effective and it works. All right. So how do I do that? Well, all I need to do is, instead of here, I want to start off with, let's just say, the user. I want to find that user, and that user is going to be that first column right down there, user. So let's find user. And what I want to do is I don't want to overwrite the HTML. I just want to append or add it to the bottom. All right. So just add it to the bottom. In this case, it's a column, so it's going to append to the bottom of the column. What exactly do I want to append? Well, I want to append the name with a link to that name. All right. So I need to append something here. And what am I going to append here? Let's make sure I append. I want to append an anchor tag, all right, because it's going to be a link. So I want to be able to click on that and go to their channel. So append an anchor tag, all right. And then the problem is, if I append, it's going to keep going next to it, next to it, next to it, next to it. I want to actually add in a line break. So I'm going to append an anchor tag. So end the anchor tag. And then, since I know I'm going to have something appending underneath of it, I want to make sure that I add in a line break as well. So break. That's if the stream is null, and since most of these streams are null, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to start off with a blank anchor tag. No, don't worry about where it goes. I'm just going to add in target equals, and remember, you can use escape quotes, or since I used single quotes before, I can get away with double quotes. Target equals blank, so it opens in a new window. All right. And then href equals, again, I can get away with these double quotes. That, and this is where I'm going to add in, this is where I'm going to have to concatenate a string and be careful of my escape quotes. All right. And then I'm just going to put null here. And I'm going to do the same thing for the else for the user. See? See? And instead of null, I'm going to write, and I'm going to see if this is actually appending correctly, which is all I'm testing. And remember, I'm only using this user tag here. So when I run, one person's there, two people are not there. Oh, look, null, null, success, success, null, null. All right, so we now know that our functionality is working. Okay, our functionality is working. All right, so let's just do this. All right, so now I want to add in what the username actually is. So we have a target of blank, we have the href, and here we're going to have to do something. This is where we have to remember what quotes. So we want to break this out so we can hit single quotes here. And you can see right now it separates this out. So now I can concatenate stuff. So I'm going to make sure you have the plus, the plus. What do I need to concatenate? All right. So I need to concatenate some things in here. All right. I'm actually out of time again, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop here with this concatenate and try to figure this out. So you can go ahead and work on this. I'm going to have to take a break here and then see you guys next time and finish up a little bit later on today. Okay? All right. Have a good time. See you next time.